the automated PPT is not working, I have a PDF file which I have the same thing. And is it really to, can we make it bigger? Can we remove this?
So this
section, this one, yeah.
delete the right hand side.
In English I could have. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this is a brief about India, the way India is. Hope you can see the way it is today. We have about 10,000 years old ancient civilization. Over 10,000, Wikipedia says some life forms were existing almost 40,000 years back in what is referred to as the south of India. 325 languages spoken and over 4,000 dialects. 24 official languages. A language in India is recognized an official language when it is spoken and written by 300,000 people. And it must have an independent script. So these 24 languages have an independent script. So each language looks like you're looking at a Japanese or a Spanish or English. You can't understand the characters, it's completely different. We have 29 states and 5 union territories. We have 3.28 million 6 square kilometers of area, 7,516 kilometers of coastline, 1.16 billion population. It's 1.2 now, probably 1.18 billion now. The media is 5,600 dailies, newspapers, 15,000 weekly magazines, 20,000 periodicals, and in 21 languages, with a combined circulation of over 150 million. A GDP expected to be about $2 million in 2011. This presentation was made about 2 years back. Prime parliamentary form of government, world largest democracy with over 500 parties, world 5th largest economy, world 3rd best purchasing power country, now it is amongst the first two. The world's recognition in IT, biotech and space, largest English-speaking nation in the world, world 3rd largest standing army force with over 1.5 million soldiers, world 2nd largest pool of scientists and engineers, the first 2 universities of the world, which were set up way back in 650 BCE, Nalanda and Takshila, with over 10, at that time, when they were set up, these universities had 10,000 disciples and 2,000 gurus as professors. You can imagine the kind of strength. Even today, if a university has this kind of a strength, it is considered to be a large university. I'm talking of 650 BCE. World's 2nd largest producer of technical manpower after United States, and the 1st largest supplier of technical manpower to the world. You know this particular image, which is what India is very famously known for all over the world, the cinema, the theatre, and so I don't need to speak about this, but it is there. Could we make it a little more bigger? Bharat Forge has the world's largest single location forgery facility. Its clients include Honda, Toyota, Volvo, amongst the others. It's one of the forging companies. Hero Honda, with about 1.72 million motorcycles a year, is now, largest motorcycle manufacturing in the world. India is the 2nd largest tractor manufacturing in the world. India is the 5th largest commercial vehicle manufacturer in the world. Ford presents the Gold World Excellence Award to India's Cooper tires. Mercedes-Benz in India is for over 4 decades and is the distribution center for the whole of Asia. Aston Martin contract prototypes is the latest luxury sports car, AMV 8 Vantage, with Indian-based designer, and it's set to to produce the cheapest Aston Martin ever. Suzuki, which makes Maruti in India, with a joint venture, now Suzuki has the full stake in it, after almost about 20 years of joint venture relationship, has decided to make India its manufacturing, export and research hub outside Japan. Hyundai India is set to become the global small car hub for Korean giant and will produce 25,000 Santros, one of the versions of the car to start with. They have 500,000 cars of Hyundai Korea, already they were there about in 2011. They're much more now. The prestigious UK auto manufacturer MG Rover is marketing 100,000 Indica cars made by Tata in Europe under its own name. Apart from that, in any case, you know, the Tata had acquired the Jaguar and it had already acquired the Tata Tately, which was a key company in the UK. Okay. In terms of technological spheres, the Geneva-based ST Microelectronics is one of the largest semiconductors companies to develop integrated circuits and softwares in India. Texas Instruments was the first to open operations in Bangalore, followed by Motorola, Intel, Cardell Design, and others. 80 of the world 117 SEI, CML level 5 companies are based in India. 5 Indian companies recently received the global acclaim Deming Prize. This prize is given to an organization for rigorous total quality management. 15 of the world's major automobile makers are obtaining components from Indian companies. The business fetched in India is $1.5 billion in 2003 and will reach $15 billion by 2007, which is already crossed now. New emerging industries areas include bioinformation, biotechnology, genomics, and clinical research. World-renowned T2M experts Yoshi Hotai predicts that India's manufacturing quality will overtake that of Japan in 2013, although it has not done so far. We are still yet to see that happen. McKinsey believes India's revenue from the IT industry will reach $87 billion in 2008. Again, we have still not been able to achieve this target so far because of this 2008 recession, because most of the buyers were from Europe and the US. Electronics is the US $14 billion global major in electronic manufacturing services, has announced that it will make India the global competence center for the telecom software development for its own company. In terms of trade, if you look at, the Tata Motors paid about $118 million to buy Daewoo, commercial vehicle company of Korea. Ranbaxy, the largest India's pharmaceutical company, gets 70% of the $1 billion revenue from overseas operation, 40% from the US. Citibank, last 2 years, has been in operation and only viable because of Citibank India. They were the only divisional bank or the country bank which was actually reaping profits, which were actually setting off their losses, which were there rising in the US and other parts of the world. So it was, according to some of the board members who work in India, they told me, it was only India operation which gave them revenue to actually buffer in and take care of the losses they were having in the last 3-4 years. And 2 years in consistency. Tata Tea has bought Tately, which was there, $1 million, and without the fear that the people, the Britishers were being thrown out, they have been kept on and more workforce has been added to this company, even in the case of Jaguar. India is one of the largest diamond cutting and polishing centers, and it exports worth $6 billion in 1999. It's almost double today. And you'll be surprised, 2 components, amongst others, the famous components. Diamonds, despite the fact that we make them into the real shape and we send it to the world around, that means we cut them, we have the best cutlery people, we do not set the price of diamonds. We are the largest importer of gold. Officially, 2/3 production of gold, which is about 2.2 million tons, is actually imported into India, is bought by India, and the balance 1/3, I believe 50% of that is actually smuggled into India. It is not the government which consumes this, it is the common man. It is people like you and me who actually consume this gold. And this has been an appetite for centuries which India has had. And there again, despite this consumption level, we do not set the price for gold. It is set up by the London Stock Exchange. So, you know, we despite being, as Jundo was asking yesterday, you know, we would like to capture the market. We have already captured markets in certain areas, but we do not want to be the leaders or the ones who proclaim to set prices and do things. And that's where India would like to believe in consistency in going forward and not looking at being at the top for some reason or the other. Government exports expected to be 1.1 million. They've already crossed. The foreign exchange reserves are about $318 billion a week back. And it has hovered around 300 billion for the last 4 years. It's been consistent. 298 to be precise. It has been every year, last financial year for the last 4 years, despite economic turbulences, despite the rupee devaluation and appreciation and everything, it has still been consistent. It has been rising for the last 6 months. China's bilateral trade in 2010 surpassed 60 billion, targeting 61.7. The relationship between China and India are on the face front improving. We do not see much, but in terms of trade relations, it's been a decade now. Large Indian companies, whether mid-size or large size, they're actually buying products from China directly. Their manufacturing hub has become China now. They've shut their offices in India and they're actually only manufacturing and importing. Whether you pick up a pen, whether you pick up an electronic item, a chip, which is manufactured by an Indian company, a telephone, anything. From the cheapest possible thing, which could be 10 cents of a dollar, to something which may be $100,000 as well, is actually made in China today, and it is offered by an Indian company. So we already have that strong trade linkage, which is already established and well established. Walmart sources 1 million worth of goods from India. They wanted to set up, and the retail being open, there is a possibility to set them up now more. Very good and interesting part of India has been that it has been a self-reliant country. At the time of independence in 1947, we were made so dependent by the Britishers that we were 98% importing country. That means even from the needle to everything was imported from the UK. We did not manufacture. Today, we do not need to, because we need to meet the requirements of the people, the demands which are being generated by the masses. But apart from that, we manufacture everything. It may be not the top quality, but it is being manufactured from the smallest to the latest. The INSAT 2B is a satellite which is much more precise than what even the United States has. It can actually measure 5 meters per 5 meters of scan, and the United States, after we launched that up, did a tie-up to keep a scan on this part of the world through the INSAT 2B and the rest of the world. So they had a space arrangement in terms of technological share, and they did. So that is something which is there. Now some of the others you can read here which have been there. In terms of supercomputers, one of the countries which is among which Japan is one of the countries which has supercomputers. You see, despite all these, we never want to be said that we are number one or we are leaders or we are big or we are strong. This is not the objective, but you know, like Olga was mentioning yesterday, you need to market yourself. And unfortunately, India being a Hindu-based religious country, Hinduism does not market itself. You know, it says you want to come, you come, you don't want to come, you don't come, you like me, you come, you don't like my activities, don't come. They don't market at all. And that's where, I think that's why we lag on in terms of projecting what the country has been doing. In terms of technical, Kalpana Chawla was there, large number of the technical part. At one time I was told Microsoft, out of a team of 9 people, 7 of them were Indians. I don't know if it's true, but that was the case about 7-8 years back, that his advisory team or the people who actually make decisions with him, out of 9, 7 were Indians. So, or Indian origins. Pharmaceuticals, we have done big. We have had large companies, although Japanese Daiichi has bought Ranbaxy, which is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in India, and now is selling it to someone else. But there were some other reasons, not from the purpose of taking over share. Ranbaxy and Daiichi had a large number of legal issues going on, and they wanted to settle some of these legal issues. And so they had, the easier way was, instead of going through the courts, to buy it off and settle those patent issues which were there. Trade medicine plants over 900 million already. So we see a large amount of growth in the Indian pharmaceutical. The Indian foreign multinational companies, you can see the kind of employee base we have. These employee-based numbers have almost doubled in the last 3 years. Many of these companies actually shut down their plants back home in other places and reestablished them. I remember in France, this company which makes the Air France, the EADS, which is a defense company which makes Airbus, like the Boeing, they make Airbus. They shut down 3 plants in France, and they set up these factories in India to manufacture these planes and supply to the rest of the world. So they are shifting. Many companies, MNCs, are actually shifting their bases to India. And the advantage has been because of English, the comfort zones, the ease in terms of the rules and laws and regulations in different parts of the states, and that's where they get benefit from. In terms of nanotechnology, hydrogen energy, and so on and so forth, they're also working. It's estimated at about 150,000 IT professionals in Bangalore against 120,000 in Silicon Valley, which is again on the rise. It's not gone down. India has most of these companies you might have seen has become the research lab. I know about Nokia. Nokia had 2 research centers about 8 years back. The president met me. He says the largest center is in India in Pune. The smaller they have back home in Finland. The BPO growth is also known, although China has surpassed India's BPO growth now, but the BPO story is still working and there. India's technological superpower, I don't need to talk about technology, I think most of you would know the way IITs and other companies have been working together. India abroad, some of these companies which have actually made, in terms of the Indians being on the top of some of these companies, shows their skills and the way they have worked. Indians in the US, a very interesting fact which we came across, that is the proportions you can see, the percentage of Indians which have been contributing in various spheres in the US. It's a common joke which goes on that IIT is equivalent to Harvard plus MIT plus Princeton. I don't know if it is true, but that's what it goes on in terms of saying. But it's just too far-fetched an idea. I think we need to really upgrade our skills at IIT in terms of the technical inputs which we give to our students. But that's what goes as a joke. Sound, I think we have one of the largest classical ethnic centers for sounds. I would not say the only, but one of the largest in the world. Fashion, we've had a large number of Miss Worlds and Miss Universes coming in apart from Venezuela, which seems to enjoy a more prestigious place. But we've had every 3 or 4 years, we have had one contestant who goes up. So I would say we do have some good beauties from the world's eye, which exists in India. Yoga, Paul also mentioned yesterday, science which has been there. We have had some of the sciences, Vedic mathematics is another science, still not picked up so far. Ayurveda is another science of medicine, alternative medicine, which is based on natural medicines, plants and others. That has picked up in the United States, even other places are recognizing Ayurveda, and they're trying to make these centers more popular because the allopathy is not able to resolve all issues. But Ayurveda is slow but consistent and has no harm to the body in the long run. Yoga, in any case, has proved itself in numbers of centers. I think it's more practiced overseas as of today than in India. What is practiced in India is when foreigners come and join these centers to learn yoga and do yoga. But it has consistently, for sure, shown progress and success. Some of the notes which really came about India, Rabindranath Tagore, poet, and written India's prize, honors amongst the men, the advancement of unity and diversity. This has been the core religion of India. Swami Vivekananda, who wrote, "I'm proud to be to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance." We believe not only in universal tolerance, but also accept religion as true. I'm proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the persecuted and the refugees of all religions and all nations of the earth, and so on and so forth. He talks about the way he feels proud about being in India. So Aurobindo, again, an author, a writer, talks about the way education and the way Europeans, I don't know how many of you would know, but spices and textiles were introduced to Europe by Indians. So the Silk Route was the way the Indians have actually gone, and that became the route for us to be colonized as well. So it was traders who went time and again and settled and gave some of these things, which included spices and textiles. I don't know if we would not have done if Europeans would be wearing clothes or not today, but it had been a case. Mahatma Gandhi, in any case, is one of the persons who has been respected worldwide. I don't think we speak about him, and the way he speaks about India, and the way he has grown and nurtured and grown into what he was. Guru Tegh Bahadur, again, a person who brought in Sikhism, fallout of Hinduism. We've had offshoots out of Hinduism. Buddhism is one, Jainism is another, Sikhism another, and then there are about 8, 10 or more, which are very small sects, not so prominently known, like these 4. 6. C.V. Raman, Jagdish Chandra Bose, Satyanand Bose, they are prominent again personalities who have contributed and their works have been recognized. Srinivasan Ramanujan, Subramaniam, Hari Govind Koram, Amit Sen. So, there are some people who have actually civilized fast. We have seen the way, as I was talking about, the origination and other things. Currency itself, we've had some of the old currencies which have gone back. I'm working on this particular paper on currency, trying to locate how old we can go and which civilization had the oldest currency going in. A brief history on the time I was talking about Vedic civilization, Indus, Saraswati civilization, rise of Jainism, Buddhism, modern period, and so on and so forth. So we have had large structures which have gone into history, the Portuguese invasion, and anyone who has come actually has made India its form. Any culture, any religion which has come has got invited and bound to us. And it's not that we have thrown it away. As we read in text, China, 100 years or 200 years, one religion, another religion, another year. 102 years. Egypt, 100 years, one religion, 100 years, one religion. They shunt out. Where the majority comes in, they shunt out the other. This has never been the case. We had a case in the last dominance where a Sikh, a minority, was the prime minister. A Christian, a Catholic, was the leader of the party in power. The president was a Muslim. So we had all minorities heading the government. It was not, the Hindus were not present anywhere, per se. But it was not an issue for us at all. Some of the old, I'll skip this, it's too much of text, I need to go. Vedic philosophy, it's interesting if you want to read about the ancient Vedic. These are some of the scriptures which we refer to more like as Bibles, but they are the ones which give us our teachings and quite relevant even today. Most of the prominent people who speak, like even Shikher and others who have become prominent in teaching, they have actually picked up items from here, and that's what it is for. Sanskrit as a language has given birth to a large number of languages. It has been even adopted in Germany to an extent. Even now I understand a large number of Germans read and write Sanskrit, although the discipline has gone down in India. It has given birth to a large number of languages in India as well. We know the language for many. The Greek mythology, you can see similarities, Krishna and so on and so forth. Again, similarities here, Shiva and the Greek dinosaur structure. Similarity in biblical mythology, which we have from an Asian biblical hero named the Zoroaster, was a spearheaded survivor of the Ark of 7 other humans, the 7 Apukas, in ancient Egypt, the flood of so and so. We have in India similar, Manu, who was considered to be there. In terms of the Indian and the Eastern island structure, you can see similarities there as well. Surya Siddhant, which was shown there, Earth's diameter and so on and so forth, which talked about the issue. The pi which came into place, the zero which came into existence, I think have been some of the extremely well-known contributions, and without this I think we would have difficulty in calculations. The Brahmagupta in 630 AD said that the following gravity issues, which came in bodies fall together the earth as it is the nature of the earth to attract bodies. So it is not what Newton just said, it is written much before what Newton actually said. Although it's Newton's theory which comes into play. The Rig Vedas and so on and so forth, the temples, there is a temple which actually attracts as a magnetic effect, it used to attract all ships, so they had a restriction of ships going in that zone, because otherwise the ship would get attracted to the temple and would get destroyed. So we have had some of these old structures. In art, I was amazed when I went in Hangzhou, in a temple, where I read on a stone which was written in Chinese and then in English also, that the Kung Fu, the Chinese Kung Fu, comes from India again, which was amazing for me because I never thought that. It was the monks who were resting, and there was someone who wanted to join the monastery, he was not allowed, so he rested outside. Since monks were fairly rich because of a lot of donations coming to them, they were afraid of some thieves coming now and then, and as a result, this gentleman helped them teach some of these arts from the nature, and that's where the Kung Fu concept came in. And it is well engraved in Hangzhou in that particular thing, and which was amazing for me, because I never thought Kung Fu would be an Indian. It was, but its origination comes from an Indian again. Dance forms, 7 classical dance forms, and most of the dancers are men. most prominent answers are women. It's not women per se, but then most disciples are women who have been practicing and functioning. We have had knowledge in terms of artificial limbs in Rig Vedas, which is mentioned, which came in 20th century AD. Number of chromosomes which came into existence in 1890 AD was clearly mentioned in Mahabharata in 5500 BCE. Combination of male and female in 20th century BC it came in modern times, but it was there in Samvat Bhagavata. Analysis of ears was there in Rig Vedas, which came in the other. So these are printed, well-known, written scripts. So I'm not talking hypothetical structures. It is not someone who has said. It is written works which are there. Beginning of the fetal, the Hurt Eretic Upanishad, which is 6000 BCE, writes it, whereas Robinson says it in 1972. The Parthenologist, which is mentioned in Mahabharata, which was there in 20th century. The test tube babies, which has become Vishu, is categorically outlined in Mahabharata and not even possible today from this ovum only or from this sperm only. That is one cell-based organisms. The elongation of life is set in confined space travel, not yet still discovered, which is mentioned in the Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavad. Cell dimensions in 3 layers, Srimad Bhagavad came in 20th century. So you can see some of them, which are categorically, which is mentioned in some of our scripts here, which is not mentioned there. In terms of longevity, which is now being accepted, Indians used to eat in gold and silver, and they would actually consume gold. So we had a mechanism in which we would make gold edible, and they would consume gold, and that was making long life. If you see some of these health centers which talk about reducing aging in centers, they have also started talking about how do they induce gold into your body. And in Dubai now they have a gold tea which costs you about $50. So you can go and have a gold tea which takes place, which again is considered to be elongating. So some of these old ancient things have actually come in. Similar velocity of life mentioned. So you can, if you like, I can send you the copy of the presentation. You can talk about robotics, which was there in 1050 AD, which is still robots, which is there, astron, disability, which is there, embryology, mentioned in 6000 BC, 19th century. And so, there have been a huge literature which is unfolded still today. Temples, different parts of the country, quotes, and then we move to the main presentation. The nuclear physicist talks about Bhagavad Gita, the way it has influenced his life. Victor Cousin, French philosopher, again talks about the poetic philosophies and the way European structures have got influenced. Hun Xin, from the Chinese ambassador, India conquers and dominates China's culture for 20 centuries without even having to send a single soldier across the borders. That's what he feels. Dr. Arnold Thornaby talks, a British historian, talks about the Western beginning coming in from India. Albert Einstein says, when I read the Bhagavad Gita and reflect about God, creates this universe, everything else seems so superficial. We owe a lot to Indians who taught us how to count, without which we would worthless scientific discoveries could have not been made. Will Durant, American historian, again talks about the way European language, philosophy, the way of life comes from, has its origination comes from India. William Jones talks about the Sanskrit language and the way it has influenced literature in large part of Europe, and especially Greece. Ralph talks about the magnificent way of Bhagavad Gita, and the book, the way it talks about the way of life, the way it talks about how should one lead one's life. Arthur talks about the Upanishads again, the way they have influenced the Greek literature, the Sanskrit language, and the way it influences the solas of life. Henry again talks about the Vedas. Mark Twain talks about the way India is and the dream and poets shift out. Ken Weber talks about the Matrix film, which actually sees an origination coming from the Indian mythology. Professor Max Muller again talks about the way India has influenced the Greek and the Roman, which have influenced large part of the world. The Encyclopedia Britannica says, man must have an original cradle land, whence the people of the earth was brought about the migration. As the man cradle land, there has been many theories, but the weight evidence is in favor of the Indo-Malaysian mythology. George Harrison Lin Yong, who talks about the trigonometry and so on and so forth, the mathematical derivations. And then there have been other scholars. I will skip it in the interest of time. Dalai Lama says Hinduism and Buddhism, we are two sons of the same mother. Although the actual picture is, which he would not accept, is that Buddhism comes out because Buddha was himself a Hindu, a Hindu king. So he actually just restricted the nomenclature. Hinduism doesn't restrict. If I feel this table is like God for me, I pray to the God, no one restricts me. This is my God. No one restricts who I choose as a God, who I do not choose as a God. If a person I feel is a God, if I feel this mic is a God for me, I can consider and no one has objection to the fact that I pray to this mic as a God. And that's the way of life you live life. Buddhism restricts, Sikhism restricts, Jainism restricts, and that's how these are restrictive parts of Hinduism itself. Although the Dalai Lama does not accept it, but that's history. So there's no denial on that. And some of the others, I'll just run through them. Literally, you can read. Adam Smith talks about the East India Company, the way they influenced and were influenced. They talk about the Hindu system of astronomy, by far the oldest, and from which the Egyptians, Greek, and the Romans, and even the Jews drew from the Hindus and their knowledge. Lord Bernard Shaw, the Indians are a way of providing the vision of nature and real way of life. We veil ourselves to the unnatural masks. David Foyer. And the last slides about these sites. You know about some of these mountains which came into existence after this land was merged in the north of the world. Varanasi, the Khara deserts, the Kerala, which is more like the Bahamas or the famous gods of India. We talk about, we have over 100,000 gods. It is strange, different things depicted. Some of them are prominent, but they give large number of gods. The four kinetic ideas about Indo-Vedism: karma, Maya, Nirvana, and yoga. Karma is the law of universe causality which connects man with the cosmos and the cosmedian help him to transmigration. Maya is the word in most not simple, that it seems that the human sense absolutely reality situation somewhere beyond the cosmic illusion woven by Maya. Maya is when you got lost into the luxuries of life and so on and so forth. Nirvana is a state of absolute blessedom characterized by release from the cycle of reincarnation, freedom from the pain and care. So that means you're relieved. When you go into a sainthood kind of structure, you relieve all these luxuries, the Maya structure and so forth. You have from the external world, nothing influences you from the external world. You're in this. Yoga implies integration, bringing all the functionalities of that is, yoga is actually a science which actually tells you that you have these nerves in your body, how you control them. How you can control your tongue that it speaks the right things and not what it wants to just speak. How do you control every part of your body? And that's where a disciplined life between you, and that's what yoga actually teaches you. So it's a way of life to control one's own nervous system. Om, which comes, you can see in Christianity we have Amen, Muslim Amin, Hindu Om, in Buddhist Hum. Quite similarities in terms of the largest Buddha stages which was there. Secular tolerance. As I was saying, you can see this. This is a couple of years back only. For almost a decade they had this structure. You would hardly find a nation anywhere in the world, I can say proudly, which would have this kind of a structure at all. And which is having such a huge population with almost 80-85% of population which is only Hindus. And none of them at the top of the affairs and decision-making structures. Now that's where the democratic structure talks about. The democracy really comes into play. Today we have the Prime Minister who was serving tea in his childhood, who began his life as a career to serve tea in his brother's cafeteria. And when he was asked before the elections, in case you lose, what will you do? He says, no one stops me to go serve tea again. I will start going and serving tea again. So that's the way the openness is. A person from the smallest streets can actually grow up. He's a young man, grown up to the position of leadership. Abdul Kalam Azad became the president, the atomic scientist researcher. A man who was born to a Hindu family, discarded, thrown, picked up by a Muslim man, raised by him, fed by a Hindu temple. He used to stand outside the temple. It's written in his book, his autobiography, that his father, the person who picked him up, the Muslim father who picked him up, did not have sufficient funds. So he had no fund. So he would go and stand outside the temple, and then the temple would give them some offerings, and he would eat that and survive with that. A vegetarian Muslim. So you can imagine the kind of complexity, and he grew to be the first man of the nation, and an honorable scientist, and even today he is respected in the country, and a large part of the scientific honors for his contributions. There are some of the figures in poverty, education, and healthcare. It is going down, but then different statistics talks about different issues, but that's how the rate has been going. Population is going up tremendously. The rate has gone down substantially, but they estimate that by 2050 we may cross China. I'll leave this later, and we move on to the main presentation now. The presentation goes in this format. I will again focus less, but some of the issues which I did not discuss yesterday, I will try and discuss, cover up some of them here, but the additional issues which are raised here. And then I'll focus more on the development sections. This I discussed yesterday, so I'll skip on. Now, India, I was interviewed by Swedish National Radio about 12, 13 years back, and they asked me if you can decipher India in one word. I said it's like a baby elephant. It's a vegetarian country, 85% vegetarians. It is young population, about 60% of the population lies between the age group of 18 to about 40. So you have a huge population which is young, bulging up to go forward to contribute to the growth of the economy. And being a vegetarian moves very slow. It is an ancient thing, it moves very, very slow. It is not dynamic in nature. So it behaves like an elephant, but since it's a young nation, so it's more like a baby elephant, and that's how I could decipher. And it did catch the eye, and it's been referred by various other institutions over the years. And that's why I refer to even today India as a baby elephant. And that's where you will see the title which talks about the dancing regulation, because the volatility which came out in the currency and the way it actually modeled up structures in the economy as well. The largest democracy accounts for 2.5% of the world GDP in US dollar terms and 5.5% in PPP terms. Civilization history over 10,000 years, India referred as golden bird with recent invasion by Mughals and British. I don't know how many of you would know, one fact I did mention yesterday, but in India, the gold was such a common commodity that women will only wear gold. There were no dresses to be worn. They had clothes. You could wear leather, because leather was skin of animals were taken, like in the Adam and Eve structure, were taken, and the villages used to wear it. But it was only gold they would wear, and it would be even less clothes than what even Americans show on the television. Despite that, there was equitable in society. A woman passing by, they would not eye her in a bad way. And that is the way the society had developed tolerance towards structures and respected, despite the fact that, and if you might have seen some of the old cultures, some of the old temples and structures all over the world, they depict the way life has been in those centuries. And if you go to Indian temples, you can see these structures, the way people have been shown there, the way kind of dresses they were wearing. It might seem new, but it is not. It is the way one would look at things. And that's where the tolerance and the structure for Indians, openness was there. However, because we were extensively looted, and because we were extensively tarnished in terms of the female population by the invasion from Mughals, that's when we had the sari come in. One cloth which will wrap around. And you'll be shocked, there are about 128 ways of draping a sari. So we have everything in multiples, not only in numbers. We have mangoes. We have about 160 types of mangoes. A product which is only majorly produced in India, but I think other parts as well now. And that's where the interest and love for gold comes in. It's a metal which has been consumed extensively and utilized and needed extensively. Gold coins and currency regimes dates back to 1000 BCE in India. I'm still looking for others who might be there. Kotalya Shastra I mentioned yesterday, and the other point I was going to be mentioning is the other thing which I mentioned when we were sitting with Olga and Olivia yesterday in the dinner, that it is equitable for men and women, multiple marriages. The religion doesn't restrict. You have to seek the permission of the first spouse to get married to the second one, then you have to seek permission of the first two spouses to get married to the third one, and so on and so forth, irrespective of male or female. Now there is equitability there as well. So that equitability has been provided by the religion and structure, and some of these systems still exist today. We can see one female married to multiple men at the same time, even in India today, and we can see men also in Hinduism married to multiple women at the same time, and living in the same house, living in the same apartment as well. So it's not something which is very uncommon. It has gone in history and is evident even today. And this is what religion does not restrict on. Although law says one marriage. We should be very clear. The legal framework is very categorically clear. Whether you are a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or whoever you are, irrespective of the religious biasness, one marriage is only allowed legally. The rest of them are not considered to be legitimate. But in the society context. The economic models, I'll not discuss them, but Kotalya Shastra, as I said, most people who have interest in economics, I would really strongly recommend that they may want to read this. The currency regime as a great fact. Rupee comes from the word Sanskrit rupaya, meaning silver. The first rupee introduced by Shah Suri in 1946. The rupee as the form we exist today. There were currencies going back even much before 1000 BCE. That's what talking about 3000 years back. But the rupee which we see today, the currency we see today, has its origination going back to 1946, when the rupiah was launched by this king called Shah Suri Singh. At the time of independence, there were three banks which were existing: the Bank of Hindustan, the General Bank of Bengal, the Bengal Bank. All the three of them were merged together to create the central bank of this country, which is the Imperial Bank was also there, which came into existence. One of them was just the Imperial Bank later on, and then it came. The Madras presidency introduced currency of 12 farmers into 1 rupee. So 1 rupee had 12 farmers initially, and then it came into, today 1 rupee has 100 paisas. I will only talk about two things here, which was this particular model which we are talking about, and I will go this to the latest slide which we will discuss, and it was last part of which we discussed yesterday. This was also done yesterday largely. Here again. Yeah. Now, with this volatility which has come into the rupee lately, there is threat to the India's national security, given the fall of the Indian rupee, which took place, as Junzo also mentioned. There has been appreciation in the last 6-7 months, a year or so, but it is still very less. At the time of independence, you will be surprised, the rupee was, despite the fact that we were 98% importing country, $2 were equivalent to a rupee. Today, 60 rupees is equivalent to a dollar. So we were so weak today, as compared, and we are now 100% self-sufficient economy. Despite being self-sufficient economy, at that time, we have a 98% importing country, 98%, 87 to 98% taxes on income. That means almost whatever you earn, you give to the government, practically. And despite that, we were a country which was having $2 for a rupee. That means 50 paisa for $1. And today it is 60 rupees for a rupee. And so we devalued extensively. Till about 1990, when we had financial difficulty, we were not still crisis. Although worldwide text, you will see the word Indian crisis 1991, but there was no crisis. Crisis is when you default. Why is US differing from the fact that they were in crisis in 2008? Because it's a question of technical definition which says you default on some of your payments and you're unable to make payments. We did not default. Yes, we were left with 3 weeks of foreign exchange reserves for imports. So if we did not open up, then we would have defaulted after a month or so, and then we could have led into a crisis. But we were not still there into a crisis at that time. But that's when Dr. Manmohan Singh, rightly or wrongly, devalued the currency to almost double the level. We were at about 13 or 14 rupees a dollar. It went down almost to 25 rupees a dollar within a span of 6 months. And that's where, when devaluation started, it's been going down. And every 3 or 4 years, when the Congress government unfortunately has been there, the rupee has devalued extensively. It's only in the last 6-7 months where it has appreciated despite in the presence of the Congress government. The national security is a state or a condition where most cherished values and beliefs are democracy, way of life, our institutions of governance, our unity, welfare, well-being in nations, and peoples are permanently protected and continuously enhanced. You see, in the United States, if you would go back last 4-5 years and look at, the Fed has been actually trying to defend the dollar extensively. Despite the fact that the Congress has wanted that let it depreciate, the exporters lobby has wanted let it depreciate, the Fed has not wanted. Why? Because once it starts depreciating, where it will go and stand, no one knows. And the actual cost to the nation of a depreciation of a currency is huge. You see, most of the items, if you look at the common man's items, if you look at in terms of dollars and rupees, the exchange rate is around 10 rupees for a dollar. That means whether it's a haircut, whether it's buying a toothbrush or a toothpaste, or other things. If you take large number of all consumable items, the exchange rate, if you convert what is the price in similar kind of a place in India and what is the price in the US, if you convert, it will be anywhere from $1 is equal to 10 rupees. Now, if that is the case of currency, then every professor and student can own a laptop today. But given $60 rupees a dollar, one cannot. The same thing becomes double the price in Indian rupees, and we cannot afford. So we are shifting our progress, our growth, almost a decade back. With every rupee fall, 1 year of fall is there in the civilization's growth. That is the cost to the civilization for every rupee fall. Now, it will vary from country to country depending. We have calibrated for the rupee, but we will estimate that every rupee when it falls, it has an impact on the civilization. The latest defense equipments, if you want to buy, it's all in dollars or euros, whether it is sold by Germany or Japan or wherever. When they price it their way, then automatically my paying capacity when the rupee is lower is less. When I have higher, then I have higher paying capacity. I can buy better technology, more technological advanced structure. And the result, I am shifting everything, not only my human capital, my know-how, and it may take a decade to cover that 1 year of gap which has taken place because of devaluation. The Fed understands this. The Indian central bank did not, or the government did not, but now they started appreciating. The cost in terms of oil import, you see, we import about 65% of total product need of the oil. Only about 35% is produced in the country. The balance is all imported. Now, that oil cost, when the rupee devalues, again is a big cost to the exchequer. If it appreciates, automatically the price goes down, and as a result, any volatility in the international market can be handled comfortably, and you do not need to raise the price of the oil within domestic markets, which means no turbulences, no price rises, no food inflation, no oil inflation, your basket of inflation is low, you are comfortable, the people are comfortable. And that's where we benefit with the appreciation of our currency. And that's why it's important that we don't devalue the currency per se. And that's where the national security becomes a threat, because I cannot secure myself with less amount of money. The fundamental element lies in the core of their further implies strong, stable currency, social political stability, territorial integrity, economic solidarity and strength. You see, you pay, let us say, 10,000 rupees to a soldier. It is equivalent to $1,000 with 10 rupees a dollar. And it is equivalent to, if it is 50 rupees a dollar, only $200. Now anyone can go and buy him off. What is my national security there? Why is at the low level in the United States not so much of a corruption? And why so much of corruption felt by the common man on the street? Because what they pay, they are unable to buy goods and services. And because they are unable to buy those goods and services in the salary which they get, they're ready to subsidize the security issues for the nation and let go of it for some money benefit which they may get from someone else. And that's where the security becomes a big threat to the nation because of this difference. And it's only a matter of an exchange rate. I'm not saying you keep artificial exchange rate like it has been kept in a fixed exchange rate system in China, where you artificially keep it strong. No, you let it build on. When already there is a pressure on the Indian rupee to appreciate, the Reserve Bank of India would artificially keep it down. But it will, in 1996-97, when the Asian financial crisis took place, for 3 months, no fall in the rupee. We had the Deputy Director of IMF coming to India, meet with the Governor of Central Bank. Next day, rupee falls by 2 rupees. And for 3 months, when the crisis was going on in Asia, every currency was depreciating to 3 times, 4 times the level, no impact on the rupee. Despite the fact that over 100,000 people from these countries have actually returned back to India. Plus, About 50,000 people, scientists, were sent back by US because we had tested in 95 the nuclear test. And as a result, as a restriction, US had cancelled the visas of almost about 50,000 people, scientists working in the US. So we had almost about 150,000, 200,000 people come back into India. That would have created an influx. But even then, there was no fall in the rupee for almost a period of 3 months. But the day the deputy director of IMF came, next day it got devalued. So that's the way at times the currency gets regulated, and that's where it harms the country and the people in the long run. So that's why we have territorial integrity, economic solidarity, ecological balance, cultural cohesiveness, moral spirit, consciousness. Why is it? We could have had more cultural ties, we could have had more people traveling, business can increase, and I'll talk about that. Defense gets unshielded, weakening economic strength and external perceptions. Also, the country takes place. Threats to tomorrow because of the outfall of the rupee. Economics of the currency movements creates that risk. Competitive edge actually falls down. The NPAs in the banks also start getting accumulated. With the appreciation, it reduces. Fall in 1 rupee, as I said, means sending Indian economic growth backward by 1 year. Purchasing power of the masses diminish. As I said, in India, fortunately, we have a domestic orientation of the purchasing power. But with time and with influx of large number of companies from almost all spheres in all parts of the world coming into Indian manufacturing, and not only manufacturing, bringing their own producers from their own respective countries and other countries, the purchasing power is no longer only pure domestic. It has some imported purchasing power as well. Like I said, the huge industry from China which brings in some of these goods and services, Chinese companies bring in, so that also reduces the purchasing power. But the purchasing power even today is largely dependent domestically, so we are not at a risk, but it has a diminishing effect with the rupee devaluation. The future growth and development also, as I said, gets hampered. Challenges before the trading participants, which come forth. Traders, experts, research states that weak currencies have reduced current account deficits and enhances export potential. A common talk which most bankers would give, most policymakers would give, and even they would say, oh look, if currency devalues, exporters benefit. No, if currency appreciates, for the same amount of money, I supply less goods first of all. Secondly, for the same amount of money, I am able to travel more to expand my business. But if it devalues, I am not able to. The competitive edge in the market is not based on the price, it is based on the quality of the product. And it is very clearly evident today that the quality is the most important component in terms of sales. It was the old days when the Japanese used very cheap products, acquired the market, and then enhanced their quality of product. Chinese are doing the same thing, the Japanese way, where they're flushing the products irrespective of the quality and then trying to improve the quality. Now those are gone days in terms of, that is capturing markets. That's a marketing structure. That is not the way if you want to go be competitive in terms of selling your product. If your steel, if your wheat, if your rice is not good, people will not buy it even if it is cheap. Today it doesn't sell if it is cheap. So you have to be competitive in terms of quality product which you make, and people are ready to pay the price. Organic foods, as I mentioned the other day, are one thing which in France I know cost 4 times than a normal fertilizer-based product. Yes. How much time do we have now? Well, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Can you make it 5? Sure. Thank you. Yeah. So that is the way. Earning of traders, trade expansions which are there, inelastic imports. India suffers from large number of imports as inelastic. Oil is one of them. Then we have even wheat we import at times. We have been importing large amount of other perishable and non-perishable commodities. Gold, as I told you, we import a huge amount of gold. And values at the export, raw material cost increase with the increased devaluation, and burdening exchequer due to oil and food import bills, growth of black money in informal markets. Because it's devaluing, the volatility is there, people like to hold money and they change it off the market, and then the banks and financial institutions. And that's where the black marketing and structures, black money gets informal market. People like to keep their money outside. Over-invoicing and under-invoicing of bills takes place. In the US, we found out in 94-95, about $4 million were being lost every month just because of over-invoicing and under-invoicing of bills. Because an Atlas cycle, exercise cycle, which was $100 as the bill price in India, was sold on the bill or for 50 cents. So the balance money was actually kept in the US itself. So you lose that money that could have come in. Why? Because the person feels it will devalue, I will get less, or I'll get more when I devalue. If I need, I will bring it. Tomorrow I want $1, I'll have to go for approvals. So there is a restriction, and that's where the devaluation actually makes a major impact as well. The business and growth in India since 1980s has been at a snail pace. Factors responsible: corruption, unfortunately, been there. Structural bottlenecks, both government, legal and infrastructure. Conservative attitude to financing business. One wants to raise finances from their own pockets. They don't go to markets and look at the new ways. Some of the new companies that are coming in the last 10 years have started looking at things in a different way, but still, it's very traditional, and that's why the business is very slow. FDI reforms, liberalize FDI policies, now they're liberalizing more. Retail has opened up, multi-brand retail and so on and so forth, commodity markets are there and so on and so forth. So there is growth in business which is there, stable, consistent, but very slow. FDI reforms, implementation of second level of reforms is there. The indicators of stability like the money supply, inflation, currencies, fiscal deficits and all. Since I have only 3 minutes, I will not elaborate on some of them. I'll send you the paper if you want to read through. Easing tax policy and framework, carving financial structures, which is new ways which have been financed today. Monetary policies and the structure, we have not changed the monetary policy in the last 60 years, but they reorient the wheel. A very important is multi-indicator approach since 90s, a strong GDP growth which has been observed, international confidence which has grown in the Indian market in the last. India is a safe haven in terms of investment for a large number of investors worldwide today. Improved performance of macroeconomics, non-availability of options for markets to provide the investment safe haven and consumption based for India. We are the largest consumable markets. Unlike China, which has a huge population, but still is not a large consumption market. India is fairly large because the consumption is very inherent in terms of the people themselves, and it's homogeneously distributed all over the country. China is scattered, like the United States, it's scattered on the corners. Very less sparse populated in between. But India is very homogeneously distributed. Each culture has different requirements. So the products sell very, very comfortably. Shield against crisis, we had some of these factors which actually helped us shield ourselves against the crisis. The M3 has been consistent in the last 1 year around 13%, which is a good rate. Savings rate has been around 33%. It actually went up to 38%, which was not good because there has to be a balance between savings and development. And a 33% rate for a developing country like India or even China or this is a very comfortable zone to work on. And we have been able to maintain that for almost 2 decades now. Stable, strong exchange rates, enhanced global perception, secure threats from national security, securing boosting future of India, lowering import prices and burdens to exchequers, something which I discussed, brings back black money kept overseas, because then you know it is there, and that's why the US doesn't want to depreciate, because they don't want money to go out of the US. Fiscal discipline, the role of the government. One thing I'd just like to mention here, and before I close for the day, the 5 years of rolling plan which we established, it's a rolling plan where we set priorities, the planning commission sets priorities and moves forward. It's a rolling plan, that is, every year we reassess, what part of the achievement have we done in those 5 targets, 6 targets. And then we reorient our wheel. We don't change the wheel, we just reorient our priorities here. And that's how it has been functioning for almost 40 years and has been benefiting the government. Many places they have 3-year, 5-year plans, but then they're rigid on those 5-year plans. Here it's a rolling plan, so it reassesses every year. And that's what makes it a little more practical. Just some figures for you to understand what the CPI and the WPI has been. A 5% WPI, which is roughly about 7.5% CPI, is a very comfortable level for an economy like India. So that should not worry you if you are making analysis on Indian economy based on the inflation. I will again go back. These are some things which have happened in the last couple of months, which have had a major impact on the way the rupee has appreciated as well. The way RBI decisions have been taking place, again, I'll skip this for the time being. And I'd like to just make one more remark and then we end for the day. This is a very important component, that India has always been a peace-loving nation with no history of ever attacking anyone. We have been defragged time and again. Our borders have cut down, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all gone away. Bangladesh, and even this Cambodia, Vietnam region, historically they say it's been a part of it. All cut off, but we have never been complaining about it. Neither we have ever acquired a company. We went into Pakistan in the war, we were almost there at the center, we would have acquired it completely if the US ships would not have come and stopped us from getting it. it would have been bad. The problem that you're facing today between Pakistan and India would not have been there ever. That would have been a stop and end to that. But we did not, because we never wanted to acquire. And that's where the ever attacking any nation to conquer, despite being invaded by split into smaller sections, essentially has been. So just a nuclear test doesn't make us risky nation. That should be understood by the world at large. It is a multilingual, multicultural, 2600 over languages. I've already discussed this, so I don't want to go forward with this. I was saying, one last line which I want to point out, which was yes, this equation today is very important. That is, how does President Mukherjee, who was put in place by the previous government, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Shri Arun Jaitley, who happens to be incidentally a student of my father, who is finance minister. There are about 4 central government chief ministers who are students of my father today, and RBI Governor Raghu Ram Rajan. What is their equation would actually tell how India will move forward in terms of the currency regime, in terms of the foreign exchange regime in the next 6 months to a year, and then henceforth. It is this equation which will make a major impact. And we have to see this because this one and this one both were put in place by the previous government. And Narendra Modi is very comfortable as Prime Minister to continue with them. He is not. In any case, President as a term cannot be removed. This gentleman can be removed, but he is ready to work with him. He feels he is competent and doing a good job, and that's where I think this equation will make a major impact on how things are looked at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a short time for a few questions. Questions? Yes, please.
Just curious about the information in India, you manufacture everything.
Yes.
Yes, just keep curious because we have also the manufacture everything in Mexico. However, how is the internal market response about the own products against foreign products?
Correct. Good. Good question. You see, whether it is tourism, whether it is a question of textiles, whether it is a question of food products, not to forget that the affluent class is only about 3 or 4%. They are the ones who may be the ones who are procuring outside products. The middle class is roughly about, as we refer to, about 350 million. Okay? If you take the middle class and the upper middle class and the lower middle class, it is more than the total population of United States and even of Europe together, about 600 million people. Now these are the people who have the paying capacity to go and buy these foreign products. And that is only half of the population of this country. So half of the population, whether they like it or not, have to sustain themselves on what India produces and what is produced locally. So that's where the production and consumption of these assets is not something which is a critical issue for India, at least as of now and another for 10-15 years. Because we do not see the balance 600 million moving to the upper middle class or the lower middle class in the next 10-15 years. Because they are the ones who are flush with funds because they're getting working overseas, or one child is working overseas, or they're having projects which are going overseas, so they have access to money, or working with multinational corporations, not the balance. So they're working on farm. 70% of the population is on farms. Those people are going to be on farms, they will consume what they get locally. And the infiltration of the multinational brands is more in big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and stuff. It's not where the 75% population lies. There these products never reach. And as a result, the consumption levels for the products we produce in this country is very much prevalent.
So there is also another question.
Yes.
So there is some kind of strategy for the government to make the other upper class, middle class,
no, it is
trust on their own products.
Yes, good again. You see, the government doesn't strategize this. It doesn't restrict you to come in and go out. There is no boundary restriction that this person can't move from this state to this state. You see, like in the United States, a lawyer, if he is a lawyer from New York, he can't go and practice in California. If he has done law from California, he can't go and practice in. He has to take a bar exam and only then he can practice. A CPA cannot go and practice one state to the other.
I think what she's asking is,
yeah,
are there government restrictions
no, that's what I'm saying.
Consumption?
Yeah, in terms of consumption.
Economically.
Both
is there a government strategy to encourage people to buy Indian products as opposed to Chinese?
Sorry. There is no government intervention in terms of proposing or giving any subsidy. Okay. Yes, agro-based products, if they are given subsidies, If it's an Israel-India venture, even they will be benefiting from that subsidy.
Okay.
If it's a German-India venture, it will also benefit from that subsidy. So it's agriculture-based. Subsidies given, they will be on sectoral basis. If it's a subsidy for tractors, whether this tractor is bought by a Mexican firm based in India or by an Indian firm, they both will get the subsidies. So it's not based on, oh, X person is consuming so you get this benefit, or Y person is consuming so you get a benefit. No.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's thank the speaker again. Okay, so Dr. Masada asked me to announce, so we have, let's add 5 minutes to the break, and let's start at 10:35. There is a typo in the program, because section D, according to the program, starts at 11. Let's start it also at 10:35. Okay, so 10:35, section A starts here, section B starts there, and over there we have the coffee break now. Okay, so thank you very much for the great presentation. I think. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Because I think in Mexico, for example, that's the difference. The majority of the people live in the cities. And so, like, the poorest person, what that poorest person eats and drinks, he eats tortillas, which of course is local, and he drinks Coca-Cola. So that's different. That's what the question comes from, right?
We had a problem that now my grandparents, they are farmers.
Okay.
They used to have oranges.
Okay.
So now the problem is people that are moving to cities. So we are not taking care of the farms anymore.
No, that kind of a mix has already been there. Beginning of last decade, we had large number of people who got well educated who moved to the city when we got here. Yes, yes, again, I mentioned. But because of the recession, many of these people who were hired by multinational corporations have actually been laid off.
Oh,
and they have now gone back, and that's why I was talking yesterday about the agro-based industries. They have, since they have these farms and their parents have grown old, so they have given these lands out to farmers to produce, and they then bargain with some country or the other because they have learned the way things work, and now that that's what they're doing with the international market and selling these products.
That's a big difference with Mexico. In Mexico, people don't get back to the farms. They go to the US to work with US farms, they go everywhere else, but the farms, I mean, you don't need too many people to work there.
The second advantage of
it's already overpopulated. In the villages, people.
This is already getting the cost tax.
Right.
Because the young people want to make money, and farms they don't produce. How to say? You have to sell your product to another person. That person selling another person.
Same. But now today we have markets where commodity markets are there, which actually the farmer can actually go and sell directly. And now the government, because of this hoarding process which takes place, the government is introducing systems where a farmer can actually directly sell to the government without the intervention of these people in between. And that's where they're trying to bring in structures, but it is not restricting anyone. It doesn't say you need to eat apple because I produce in India. Or I'll give you subsidy if you eat apple. No. You like to drink Coke, you pay the price, which market price is there.
That may be another difference, because in Mexico, land can only be owned by Mexican nationals or Mexican government.
Correct.
If, like, as you said, some German company wants to set up a farm, it cannot do that in Mexico. It can rent, but it cannot buy. And therefore, maybe that creates a healthy competition, which improves the efficiency of Indian agriculture.
There is a restriction also, but the fact is, a German company can be 100% owner of a company which is located in India. That means Microsoft owns Microsoft India. Microsoft in India is an Indian company, but Microsoft owns 100% of Microsoft India. So you directly don't own land, but you own it indirectly through the income. So if tomorrow the government has to intervene, it will take over Microsoft India.
And also in Mexico, there is a lot of these restrictions on land. Like you still have the ejidos, the collective farms.
The whole road that we try to change.
We try to change that, but still, it's still difficult.
Right.
Okay, but